This gun lights your firemen, the pilot lights out.
This football team is coming into our place. We're standing in our way.
This is a game of the heart. Focus and finish.
All right, it's Waiver Wire Wednesday here in Week 8 at Roto Experts, and both this week and next are the 2 weeks with the most teams in the NFL having buys, with 6 teams each week. So what does that mean for you? Well, it means that for many of us, we're looking for substitutes for some of those players that are regulars in our lineups that have a bye week. There's just no way to carry exceptional backups at every position and also match the bye weeks so that nothing overlaps for you. Teams that have a bye this week are Baltimore, Chicago, Houston, Indianapolis, San Diego, and Tennessee. Now you add the list of players that you may be missing because of a bye week to those on your roster fallen because of injury, and many of you are, well, screwed. Well, at least by the desperateness of the questions coming my way, that's the sense I get from most of the viewers. Not to panic, however. Take a deep breath and listen up. Let's first address the long-term problems that many of you have of losing players to injury. There are a group of players being waived in many leagues this week just because they're on buys, as fantasy players hastily concern themselves solely with Week 8. You may be able to pluck some of these guys off the waiver wire that you're interested in simply because others are waiving them for the week. And here's a list that I compiled that I know many of our viewers are waiving just from my back and forth with them on Twitter. Take a look. Now, I'm not recommending all those players, but there are clearly some names on that list that would help your roster for the second half of the season. So make certain to look and see who's being waived this week in your league. Now, let's take a look at who viewers have been asking about adding most this week. The development of Le'Veon Bell and the return of Heath Miller has given Big Ben some options besides Antonio Brown. Both Emmanuel Sanders and Jericho Cotchery are professional receivers that can help move the chains and even nab a TD every so often as well. So I like Ben Roethlisberger against the Raiders this week. With all the carries Chris Ivory received last week, people have been tripping over themselves to drop Bilal Powell and pick up Chris Ivory. Now, I'm not suggesting that you're wrong to do that, but keep in mind that last week the Jets' game plan was to pound the ball into the vacated spot that Vince Wilfork used to reside in, and Ivory's style of running was best suited for that. Now, if we see another lopsided amount of carries in Ivory's favor again this week, then perhaps there's something to it. For now, I'm just going to chalk it up to being last week's game plan. We spoke about Jared Boykin on This Week in Fantasy Football last week, recommending his addition. Now, if you didn't act, you still have a chance, because even after an 8-catch, 103-yard, 1 TD week, he's still not widely owned. The Packers are without Jermichael Finley, who suffered a significant spinal cord injury, which leaves Jared Boykin as a productive number 3, if not number 2, target for one of the most proficient offenses in football. He should be added, if not started, in all leagues. Now, we can't possibly help you through these video segments more than this example. I replayed this on Monday, and I'm going to replay it again for those of you who missed it.
One guy NFL scouts and former scouts are talking up, you have to get him on your roster right now, is Jordan Reed of the Washington Redskins.
9 catches for 134 yards and a touchdown last week was handed to your tight end position on a silver platter if you listened. And believe it or not, he's still not universally owned. This is a player that's already through his bye week and should be a top option for you week in and week out for the rest of the season. Today's Twitter question comes from @Aldo89, who wants to know if I like Roy Halou. I'm guessing the fact that Halou scored 3 times last week prompted this question, but the way I see it is that those touchdowns were more a function of circumstance than anything else. For me, Alfred Morris is still the guy you want for the team that some people don't want to say the name of. Now, if you have a question you want answered, hit me up with a tweet. If I don't use your question on the program, I'll tweet you back with my best advice. And be sure to tune in to the Roto Experts Fantasy Football News Notes and Analysis segment every weekday. I'll be here to keep you current and ahead of the competition, and on weekends, come back for This Week in Fantasy Football, as I team up with the King, Scott Engel, covering the week that was, the week that will be, and answering your viewer questions. And just so you know, I've placed a call to the NFL begging them not to make us watch the Vikings play in primetime again this week. I don't expect any results, but I had to ask. For Roto Experts, I'm Mike Cardano.